remember my dad a lot these days. He passed away almost 14 years ago, but he's still so present in my heart and mind. Lately, I've been thinking about the specific way that he used to finish a meal. For him, the finale was always chocolate. The ritual would begin after our meals, the moment the plates were stacked. And by the way, usually by me, while my brother Nate miraculously developed a 20-minute bathroom emergency the second cleaning the kitchen started. I see you, brother. So anyway, once the kitchen was finally clear, out came those little yellow wrappers, the Mr. Good bars, from those little variety packs. That was Dad's signature treat, the period at the end of the sentence. Without it, meals felt unfinished. And now, thanks, Dad, I'm that person. I find myself lecturing to my daughters, we don't always need a treat, after meals.
Yes, we do.
Do we? My daughter, my own brain immediately whispers, are you sure about that, Sharon? Maybe we should have a treat. Listen, I'm a work in progress, but it has always made me wonder, why do these patterns stick so hard? Why does the brain repeat what it remembers so faithfully, even when we're consciously trying to write a new story? You're listening to the Set Point Science Podcast, the science behind how your body and brain regulate weight for good. I'm your host, Sherry Alberts, and today we're talking about why our bodies seem to have a memory of their own. We're diving into why those well-worn paths, like that need for something sweet after a meal, those aren't a sign of a broken will, but a sign of a highly efficient brain. I'm going to show you how your past repeats become your current physical reality, and more importantly, how we can start to thin out those old patterns without the typical white knuckle approach. We often spend our lives thinking that a habit is just a series of bad choices we keep making because somehow we lack discipline to do better. We look at that late night snack, the extra serving of potatoes, or that need for chocolate as a character flaw or a sign of a broken will. But the realization I had, the one that shifted everything for me, and the one I want to offer you today, is that your brain isn't actually trying to sabotage your weight loss goals. It's not your enemy. It's actually just doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's learning. You see, the human brain is essentially a high-powered efficiency machine. Its primary job, besides keeping your heart beating and your lungs breathing, is to save energy. If your brain had to consciously decide every single morning how to brush your teeth, which foot to put in your pants first, or how to drive to work, you'd be mentally exhausted before you even finished your first cup of coffee. To prevent that exhaustion, the brain looks for shortcuts. It watches what you do, and if you do it more than a few times, it says, got it, I'll take it from here. This is just how we handle this situation. Here's the kicker that we often miss, though. The brain doesn't have a moral compass for your snacks. It doesn't sit there with a clipboard weighing the nutritional value of a Mr. Good bar versus a bowl of kale. It doesn't know the difference between a useful pattern and an unuseful one. It only knows frequent patterns. It is completely agnostic to the quality of the behavior. It only cares about the repetition of the behavior. Whether you're reaching for that chocolate after a Sunday meal because it's a nostalgic connection to your dad, or you're reaching for a glass of water, your brain treats those signals exactly the same way. It just sees a trail being blazed in the woods. Every time you repeat that action, you're trampling down the weeds, clearing the rocks, and smoothing the dirt. Eventually, you've paved a 4-lane highway where a tiny footbridge used to be. This is why these behaviors feel so sticky. The glue keeping these patterns in place isn't your lack of willpower. It's the physical infrastructure that your brain has built to help you be more efficient. But the good news, the part I really want you to hear, is that just as your brain can learn to pave that highway, it can also learn to let the weeds grow back over it. Your brain is plastic, meaning it can unlearn anything. But to do that, we have to stop judging the highway and start understanding the glue that made it stick in the first place. To really understand why my dad's Sunday afternoon Mr. Goodbar habit is now my Sunday afternoon habit, we have to look past the plate and into the actual wiring of our nervous system. We have to look at a fascinating biological process called long-term potentiation, or LTP. Now, don't let the big name intimidate you. If we break it down, long-term just means long-lasting, and potentiation means to make something more potent or more powerful. So LTP is literally the process of your brain making certain internal signals more powerful than others. Think of your brain like a vast, untouched, grassy field. The very first time you ever had a sweet treat after a big meal, maybe you were like 5 years old at your grandma's house, you were just a kid walking across that tall grass for the first time. You didn't leave much of a mark. If you never did it again, the grass would have just popped back up and the path would have disappeared. But LTP is the scientific reason that path didn't disappear. It's the process where the connection between the two neurons gets physically stronger the more often they talk to each other. In the world of neuroscience, we have a famous saying, neurons that fire together, wire together. Imagine two little neurons in your brain, two cells in your brain, specific brain cells. Let's call one the finished my meal neuron, and the other one want something sweet neuron, okay? So between these two neurons is a tiny microscopic gap, which is called a synapse. For a habit to happen, the first neuron has to toss a chemical message across that gap to the second one. In the beginning, that message is like a tiny whisper. The second neuron barely hears it. But with long-term potentiation, every time you repeat that Sunday meal ritual, your brain decides to give that connection a massive upgrade. It's like the receiving neuron says, I can't hear you very well. Let me fix that. And here's where it gets crazy. It actually begins to sprout more receptors. Think of them like little tiny ears, so it can catch the signal more easily. It's building more docks for that chemical message to land in. Eventually, because of LTP, that signal isn't a whisper anymore. It's a shout! And this is where we get the highway metaphor. Not only does the signal get louder, but your brain also starts a process called myelination. It begins to wrap that neural pathway in a fatty white substance called myelin. We've talked about this before. And myelin acts exactly like high-tech insulation on an electrical wire. It makes it so that signal travels up to 100 times faster. So what started as a slow, thoughtful walk through the grass has been upgraded through the sheer physics of LTP into a high-speed, insulated, multi-lane highway. By the time I sit down for Sunday breakfast now, or let's face it, lunch on Wednesday, doesn't matter, my brain is already looking down that highway. It's saying, oh, I know this road. We're going to do the lunch food thing. Great. I've already prepped the sweet signal highway for after. I've got the receptors ready. The insulation is hot, and I'm ready to fire that signal the second the fork hits the plate. So we don't have to waste any energy thinking about it. When you feel that urge, I want you to realize it's not a lack of character or discipline. It's long-term potentiation in action. You're not weak. You just have a very well-paved, highly insulated, biologically reinforced highway. Your brain is just being a gold medal athlete at doing what you've taught it to do. And another thing, I just missed saying this when I first recorded this episode. What we're talking about, this is exactly where most weight loss advice misses the mark. When you try to force change against this well-paved highway in your brain, your nervous system reads that as threat. And threat activates what I call defense. Defense is such an important word for us right now. I've talked about it in the last episode. I'll be talking about it much more. It's weight defense. So defense, that's your body trying to defend the specific weight that it's at right now. It does that by doing things like making you crave, making you regain after you just lost a few pounds. Like you think, oh, I was doing great, and then I just stopped caring. It looks like I must have that such and such food right now to make me feel better, or because I had a tough day. But here's what's important. That's actually not your discipline failing, which is what many of us think. That's just a totally natural, totally normal, brilliant system of weight defense rearming itself. We have this system for defense literally wired in us to keep us safe in times of famine. It's just we don't necessarily need it right now in this very interesting food situation we've become surrounded in. So inside Set Point Restore, which is my monthly coaching membership, which by the way, it's open for founding members right now as of publish of this episode. In my membership, I teach you how to disarm this defense. not by breaking the highway with force with like a sledgehammer or something, but by lowering the nervous system's need to protect that. Enrollment is only open for 10 days at the founding member price before the price is going to go up. So if this is resonating, you might think about joining us at setpointscience.com/restore. Okay, back to the episode. Now, before we dive into how these neural highways play out in your actual kitchen or at your office desk, I want to invite you to take a breath and grab a resource that I made just for this journey. I put together a gentle weight loss starter guide. It's a PDF that moves beyond the typical eat less, move more noise. It's designed to help you communicate with your biology in a language that it actually understands, not the language of force or restriction, which our bodies often read as a threat, but the language of safety and rhythm instead. So inside, you'll find the safety reset principle, which helps you flip that internal switch from protection mode back into release mode, as well as what I call the Mel Rhythm framework to help you notice your patterns without a single ounce of criticism or judgment. It's not about starting over with a new set of rules. It's about starting softer with a new level of self-trust. You can grab your copy right now at setpointscience.com/podcast guide. Now, the science that we've been talking about is such good news because it means that there's really nothing wrong with you when you reach for that dessert. I have my dad to thank for that specific pattern in me, and now my husband can definitely thank me for passing it right along to him as well. We're not failing. We're simply living out the physical reality of our neural highways. We see this show up everywhere in our daily lives, often in ways we don't even realize are programmed. Like that stress wine at 5 p.m. that we grab the very second the laptop closes, or the phone scroll that happens automatically as soon as our body hits the couch. The clean the plate reflex that kicks in even when we've been comfortably full for 10 minutes already. These aren't character flaws or signs that we lack discipline. They're stabilizing behaviors. Your brain uses these repeats to create a sense of homeostasis, steady internal balance. Your brain loves the predictable because in the world of biology, predictability equals safety. Even if a habit isn't currently helping you reach your weight goals, it is serving a purpose. It's helping your brain feel secure because it knows exactly what's coming next. Your body isn't being stubborn, it's being protective. It's important to remember your body isn't waiting for you to find more willpower or finally achieve perfection. It's simply waiting for a consistent, calm rhythm. When we try to use force or restriction to break these patterns, our systems often flip into this protection mode, which, as we know by now, it actually slows down our progress. But when we recognize that these behaviors are just the brain's attempt to find regulation through repetition, we can stop threatening our biology and start providing the safety it needs to finally let go. There is a psychological and physiological layer to this pattern that is absolutely fascinating, and it's called the CCR. And no, before you ask, I'm not talking about Creedence Clearwater Revival, although trying to break a deep-seated habit can definitely feel like there's a bad moon rising. Okay, while the band is great, I totally love them. This CCR that I'm talking about is actually an abbreviation for Conditioned Compensatory Response. It's the way that your mind and body collaborate to stay like one step ahead of you. It's a survival mechanism where your body actually starts to change its internal chemistry before the behavior even happens. Once you've established a repeated pattern, like my dad's Sunday chocolate ritual, your body begins to crave that rhythm more than it craves any new set of rules. The moment I finish that savory breakfast, my body, which expects the usual hit of sugar, might start releasing a tiny bit of insulin already or shifting my blood sugar levels to compensate for the guest it knows it's about to receive. This is why that need for something sweet feels so incredibly physical, because it is physical. Your body isn't being stubborn or trying to make you fail. It's being protective. It's attempting to maintain balance by predicting your next move based on the safety of repetition. This is where we have to separate our identity from our strategy. Please listen. You are not a sugar addict or someone who just can't stick to a plan. You are a human being with a brain that has developed a highly sophisticated strategy for regulation. Your eating rhythm tells your story, not your worth. In my Gentle Weight Loss Starter Guide, I talk about the Mel Rhythm framework, which teaches us to notice these physical shifts: more, enough, and less, without a single drop of judgment. When we pause after eating to simply ask where we are in that rhythm, we engage a specific part of the brain called the insula. The insula is the region that links our internal physical sensations with our self-awareness. By simply noticing the CCR happening, literally noticing your body prepping the stage, you start to rewire your regulation through awareness rather than force or even action. You realize that you aren't your cravings. You are the observer of a protective biological strategy that's just looking for safety. So here is the shift that changes everything. We aren't fighting a lack of willpower like we think we are. We are navigating a well-paved highway. When we look at our behavior through this lens, the problem, even is one, stops being about our character and starts being about our infrastructure. The reframe is this: you don't need to break the habit with a sledgehammer. That just creates more stress. And we know that cortisol, the stress hormone, actually shuts down our safety metabolism. Instead, we soften the pattern. We acknowledge the CCR is happening. We thank our body for being so incredibly prepared and protective. And we choose to stay in the observer seat. When we remove the shame from the chocolate or the wine or the scrolling, we take that power away from the pattern. You aren't a failure for having a paved highway. You're just a person who's ready to start walking in the grass again until a new path forms. This week, I want to give you a single noticing lens to take into your kitchen and your life. We're going to remove all the pressure to change the behavior itself. If you want the chocolate, have the chocolate. If you reach for the wine, reach for it. But here's the one thing I want you to notice. Notice the bridge. The bridge is that tiny flickering moment between the end of the action, like finishing your meal, and the start of the habit, like reaching for the sweet. That's the moment the CCR is prepping the stage. Just stop for 3 seconds and name it. That's it. Just say, oh, I'm on the highway again. This is the highway. This is the bridge. This isn't about control. It's about creating safety through repetition. So by simply noticing without criticism, you allow your body to respond with honesty. You're engaging that insula we talked about, the part of your brain that links what's happening in your body to your conscious awareness. Awareness, as I keep saying, is the first rhythm, the first safe rhythm. When you reflect without judgment, you're already starting to thin out that old highway. Remember that brain glue? We're thinning it out. I hope this gives you a bit of peace today. I think about my dad and his Mr. Goodbars, and I realize now that he wasn't failing at anything. He was just a man with a very well-loved ritual that felt like home. And if I'm still navigating that same highway, that's okay. I'm not starting over. I'm just starting softer. Now, next week, we're going to talk about something that most people get completely wrong. We're diving into the real reason that weight keeps coming back on over and over again. And it's not lack of discipline. If you've ever felt like you can lose weight for a minute, but then you just can't keep it off, this episode is going to connect a lot of dots. Because keeping weight off requires something most plans never address: the nervous system feeling safe enough to release the defense. That's what we're unpacking in the next episode. And remember, Setpoint Restore is open right now for founding members for a limited 10-day window before the price is going to increase. It's my monthly coaching membership to speed up the process of disarming weight defense so fat can release without rebound. If you're ready to stop repeating the same cycle, you can join us at setpointscience.com/restore. Thank you for listening to the Setpoint Science podcast. Until next time, understand and be gentle with your biology. And remember that your body already knows its way back.